Good evening, all. It's another edition of Uncle Trav's Campaign Notes. Sitting here with your old Uncle Trav. And I'm here to help you folks make your tabletop role-playing games fire, money. You know, all these newfangled terms you kids use. And so tonight, first of all, we're going to go through our disclaimer. The publications and publishers that I am talking about this evening, as I do every episode, I get no compensation for. I am no longer affiliated with TriTac Games. It's a personal relationship. I'm friends with the people who run it, but I'm not employed by them at all. So tonight, it's something. We're going to be going deep into advanced GMing here, because of the fact it's something that all GMs have had to do. I'm sure at one time or another, if you have sat behind the GM screen, you've had to do this, and that is what we call intermechanic character translation. In other words, converting a character from one role-playing game system to another. Like Hero System to GURPS, or D20 to Palladium. Yes, we know Kevin Simbita put out the big-ass thing about, if anybody puts it out on the internet or tries to sell it, lawyers would be coming. I've seen 2 systems put out on the internet since then. But yeah, basically when you have one set of mechanics and you want to convert to another. Maybe because you want to play this character, but you're not keen on the mechanics, the system that it's running. Now, I have examples of various systems and things that they do. So I'm going to break it down into 4 things that you need to look for. Abilities, physical and mental stats. Races, because not all games have humans in them. Skills and talents. And then finally, powers and what D20 Modern called FX abilities. Magic, size, superpowers, what have you. So yeah, I do this as a mental exercise. I'll sit there and go, okay, let's convert Rick Hunter from the first, from the Palladium role-playing game versions of Robotech to Hero System, or OGL. I have a long-standing Robotech campaign, and I want them to see Lieutenant Rick Hunter. Fine. Well, I'm going to need stats for him to know what he can do. Okay. So I've often done this as a mental exercise just to keep the mind sharp. 54 things start going. So, I mean, we could also go into, I believe we've already talked about in a previous episode, things like, I've had to, translate a mech from this system, this is character specifically. And not so much monsters, we're talking player and non-player characters. So, yeah, I mean, and I've got websites that you can go to, and got a surprise. I got an old school surprise sitting over here. Oh yeah, I've spent the last half hour digging for it, in because I have 2 bookshelves of gaming stuff over there. One is all my OGL stuff. The other is almost every Palladium book I own. In my bedroom, I got another 3 bookcases of the books. I have them. I really don't use them that much. I could probably make a killing on eBay. So, yeah, I have quite a number of, and of course, folders upon folders in my laptop here, and so, I mean, I've got a multitude of systems that I could work with, and throughout the years, either in certain publications or online, there have been conversion charts. I also have 3 PDFs up. Well, one of them is to explain about GURPS, because a lot of these old conversion pages are, you're converting this system to GURPS or GURPS to this system. So I guess the first thing we're going to talk about is abilities. Now in OGL, your 3.0, D&D all the way going up into Pathfinder, and I believe 5e and 4e do it too. You got strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. 3 physical stats, 3 mental stats. Those are your 6 stats that... And of course the girl, what, you're threatening to get rid of your gaming books? No, I won't now. Hi, dear. The girlfriend's in the chat room. Yeah, what? You're threatening to get rid of your gaming books? Not even under penalty of death. But no, it's I just mentioned, oh no, I can make a killing on eBay if I were to sell some of this old stuff. I really could. I just have to learn how to use eBay. Anyways, not a word. Just so yeah, your abilities, the stats that define what your character can do. I was going to look for a pot under the bed. Wow. I want to check my temperature too. I have a new thermometer. It's in the room, dear. Anyways, the statistics that make your character your character. The things that probably define a character the most next to its race and class. Or along with race and class. See, that'd be something else. I think that might go under skills and talents would be classes. But we're dealing with abilities right now. Now, as I said, the 6 that I just mentioned for pretty much all the editions of D&D and into Pathfinder, and I believe also Starfinder, again, strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. Now, with those 6 stats, strength, that is physical strength, how much you can lift. And it also determines the amount of hand-to-hand damage that you do, either with an unarmed strike, or if you have a weapon, it adds, oh, well, let's see, a long sword in OGL is 1d8, and you have a 13 strength, so that's 1d8 plus 1 slashing damage. But that 13 strength also determines I can lift this much. And usually with OGL they do light, medium, heavy load, how much you can lift above your head, how much you can pick up, and how much you can drag and pull. Dexterity. Now, there are a lot of systems that use dexterity and agility. Now, in the OGL D&D, it's dexterity is a mixture of your hand-eye coordination and your bodily agility. Can I jump or leap out of the way of this explosion? Can I pick this lock? That is lumped in one stat. Now, the old TriTac system, because remember I used to work for TriTac Games, I pretty much was considered Richard Taholka's protege, and I headed the Bureau 13 OGL conversion project for TriTac Games about, 15 years ago. He did dex and agility, and he made that point that you could have someone with incredible hand-eye coordination. You could have somebody who plays video game, but they will trip over their own shoelaces. And I know exactly who, or not her, but yeah. So, yeah, you have that dex. They lump that in there. Constitution, that is your stamina. Yes, dear. Yeah. See, when you explain a joke, dear, it's not funny. Constitution is your stamina, your force of physical strength. Your not strength, but your health. If you have a low con, you're going to get winded easily. Your hit points are going to be lower. You make con checks for things like there's a third-party rule that my dear friend Steve Wallet did, and drunkenness rules for D20. And you're rolling the number of drinks you've had in an hour, or it's D20 plus your con mod minus the number of drinks you had that hour. If you roll an 8 or lower, you get tipsy. So your sense of stamina physically. And as I said, I'll use a perfect example. My roommate is going through long COVID. He took con drain. I'm looking at him now. It's like you probably have like an 8 con right now because of everything you've been through, if not lower. There are times that there have been times he's walked across this apartment with a cane because of long COVID. So he would have a low con. He had a lot higher con when I first met him. I mean, walking, 15 miles to, walking, busing, and riding 15 miles to work one way in the middle of the snow. And yeah. So con is your physical stamina. It determines how long you can do things of a physical nature. Intelligence, learning capacity. And for D&D and the OGL and all that, you can just say multiply it by 10 and that's your IQ. So I would have a 15 to 16 intelligence. Now, Obviously, somebody who has some form of, I guess we can say, mental retardation or like Down syndrome, they would have a lot lower, and it'd be like a 7 or 8 intelligence. They still have human level intelligence, but obviously something has happened to diminish said intellect. And of course, we're not get IQ. We all know that the damn tests are all fucked up, and yeah, it's like it's been proven that the IQ tests, and I'm gonna say this, were racially motivated. And then they tried to undo it, and it just made them come out as more damn racist. So IQ is not really that's the best way to describe it, even though we all know how the IQ system, and of course I'm gonna say this right now, Mensa is something you just put on a resume. I mean, and they've actually lowered the IQ. It had to be, I think, at least 150 to get in. They lowered it to 125. Well, yeah, because membership dues are going down. But intelligence is usually your capacity to learn and remember. It would fuel things like knowledge skills, like sciences, and soft sciences, hard sciences, languages, things that are of a mental process. Like in D&D, you would have all your knowledge skills appraised, spellcraft, because you're determining the power and origin of some spell or psi power or whatever. So, intelligence. Now, wisdom, that is mental strength and mental acuity as far as your perceptions. Now, wisdom in D&D and all that, that is, you're going into your will saves, and it's like, oh, yes, I have a 30 wisdom, and so, yeah, I have a plus 10 to my will saves because of it, and you mentally are a force to be reckoned with. We're talking Professor X level. That is wisdom, and also it ties into your perception, how quickly you are to pick up your surroundings. I will say this, that I am autistic, and there are times I've missed things, and I'm pointing to the girlfriend in the chat room. Just don't bring it up. But I also have a learning disability, so there are times I have not picked up on things, and I've not gathered things quickly because of said learning disability. I put my wisdom down like a 12. And then charisma. Now, in D&D, charisma is not only your physical attractiveness, it's a combination of your physical attractiveness and your personal magnetism. Now, somebody could have an 18 charisma, but they could be ugly as sin. It's just that they're a smooth talker. I mean, look at Hitler. I mean, that man did all sorts of stuff, and he was no fashion model. I mean, his style of facial hair didn't help much either, but he was not an attractive guy. He was a little, kind of scrawny, dark-haired guy, and he was trying to, but he swayed millions of people. He would still have a high charisma. He didn't look all that good, but the man could talk. So you have these abilities that, and in GURPS, you only have 4, and I will bring up a GURPS PDF now because I have the, GURPS Lite, I believe it is. Let me bring this up here, and I'm still looking at you even though I have that. Yes, you have only 4 attributes: strength, dex, intelligence, and health. Now, strength is strength, dex is dex, health would be your con. Intelligence is just that. Now, in GURPS, if you want to have perceptiveness and strength of will and personal charisma, you would then go into things like advantages and perks and whatnot, depending on what system, what edition, because there's like 5 editions of GURPS out there. And I also have something here, Infinium Game Studio, and it is what do they call it here? A content conversion guide. Pathfinder 2e, 5e, OSR, D20, V3.5, and Dungeon Crawl Classics. So it's Infinium Game Studios, and it goes across the board. Now, I have also found other conversion guidelines, and this is for GURPS, AD&D, D20, Shadowrun Palladium, ICE, which is Iron Crown Enterprises, RuneQuest, and the Storyteller systems. Storyteller would be your vampire, your werewolf, your hunter, your Promethean, Geist, all, the Mind's Eye Theater Camarilla stuff. Camarilla, depending on how you say it. So, yeah, now the good thing about strength is that every campaign, every mechanic, your strength stat determines how much you can lift. It's very easy to convert. You're just going to have to do some math. That's the best way to do strength across the board. Okay, compute how much I can lift. Oh, in this system it's a 10. Over here it's, let's use the old DC Heroes, and we're going deep here. This is the DC Heroes Mayfair game from the 80s. Mayfair games, 1980s, DC Heroes, they had the APs. Yeah. Your 10 strength in probably D20 Palladium would be a 2 in that old DC system. Now, I'm going to bring out something here. This is the old school thing for tonight. Hero System Champions. Back in the day, they had a quarterly periodical called Adventurers Club. I have here in my hands, my hot little hands, issue 5 from fall 1984. I was like in 9th grade when they came out. And Adventurers Club was the house organ back in the day for Hero System Champions, Danger International, Justice Unlimited, Fantasy Hero, Star Hero. But here in the back, let's see, that would be page 40. There is a conversion for the old Marvel superheroes, and this is the old phase rip system, folks. Fighting, agility, strength, endurance, reason, intuition, psyche. This is the old Marvel superheroes game co-authored by Mr. Jeff Grubb, who I believe now has had a hand in Everyday Heroes from Evil Genius Games, which is kind of, and for I was 8. So there's about an 8-year difference. Yeah, 8-year difference between me and my girlfriend. So it's like, it'll be one of those things. I was 4. Oh yeah, I was in the theaters. I saw Star Wars. I was 8. I was 2 months old. So, yes, this issue of Adventurers Club here from fall 1984 has Marvel superheroes, the old phase rip, and there's a new phase rip game that's out. I remember seeing it on TTRPG. So it's there. It's out there. You have to look. And it's called Face Rip. FASCRIP. That is the name. I guess Hasbro let these people have the rights to it. And, okay, make a game. We haven't put anything out for Marvel superheroes in like 40 years. Do it. Okay. And so, to convert from the phase rip system to the Hero system, which I believe Hero is now in 6th edition, I stopped playing back in 5th edition. That's how long ago it's been Champions. I would like to get a Champions campaign going, but that would, since all of my players do OGL, I'd have to teach them a whole new system, and hell, I'd have to relearn it too, because I think I've cracked, last time I cracked open my 5th edition book, that the fact that I have to sit there and think back, that's how long it's been. So yeah, no, this is the old school thing for tonight. Adventurers Club, issue 5 from Hero Games, fall 1984, and it has the Marvel to Hero set. I have the DC one somewhere and I can't find it. I started looking an hour ago. It is now about 8:20 Eastern Daylight Time. I spent 40 minutes coming here between the computer and looking, okay, is everything, and going in my room and digging through all my old heroes. So where is that damn DC? But it's out there. And so there's conversions out there. I mean, you can go online and find converting from one system to another. I will give you 3 right now. And folks, as far as looking for them, I'm going to give you 4 letters. It's called JFGI. Just fucking Google it. Google is your friend. You can sit there and look up conversion from this system to this system, and they will give you a link. The first one I'm doing here, and this is for abilities, the old role player newsletter from GURPS, converting the hero systems of GURPS. Role player number 21, August 1990, by David Ellis Dickerson. So there's that. This one's on the Internet Archive. It is Savage Heroes Gateway to Adventure, an unofficial site. So you'd have to go to the Internet Archive and look up Savage Heroes conversions. And they have a list for it. It's just, oh dear God, I'm seeing Babylon 5, Battlestar Galactica, Bond, Bureau 13. Okay. And these are all handmade stuff. It's just they put it all on this page. Chill, D20 conversion. I've seen that one. And it's from Pinnacle, so it's like it's an official conversion. Hello to my buddy, Big Irish Son, Patrick Fannin. How you doing, buddy? And Shane Hensley. Yeah, they got all sorts of stuff here for that. So, I mean, and they will tell you how to go do the abilities. And abilities 9 times out of 10, as I said, if it doesn't have the same ability, there will be a mechanic in the game from one of the things later on. Like I said, GURPS has strength, dex, health, and intelligence. And the intelligence is split, that it just covers your mental acuity to process information. If you want strength of will or perceptiveness or charisma, you have to get advantages with points in the GURPS system. And it's been ages since I've done anything with GURPS. I think the last time I looked at a GURPS book was when I converted GURPS Riverworld to OGL, and I had Monat Grautut from the Riverworld series as a very powerful NPC, and I tweaked it to where, oh no, I can make you immortal. And I just put his Dark Tower hidden on the North Pole of Mars. And this was for a previous Thursday game. So, your abilities, you just need to... And I'm going to tell you this right now. Converting between mechanics is part... Well, let me give you one more here. One more page. It is KillerShrike.com. And he's got Fantasy Hero conversions to 3rd edition. So it's basically OGL, early OGL to Hero System 5th edition. And it's an 8-step procedure. I said, again, it's KillerShrike.com/Fantasy Heroes/Conversions3E. And they've got, let's see, D&D for 2nd and 3rd, Warhammer 1st and 2nd edition, World of Lone Wolf, and then contributions from 4 other people: Shadowcat, Eep JR24, Corvin Wren, and Court Fool. So there are conversion sites out there. I've got a bookmark list of like about, let's see, what, 8? Yes. Ranging from Heroes of GURPS, Marvel's Champions, Star Wars to Hero System, the old... Oh, wait a minute. Marvel Classic Superheroes to Champions. Wait, this might be the one I'm looking for. Marvel Superheroes role-playing game. No, this is the Marvel Universe. Okay. Yeah, this is... That's a different game there. Yeah, that's... Oh, no, they're still using the old ranks. Shift 0, feeble, poor, typical, good, excellent, remarkable. Yeah. So it looks like it may be... Yeah, this may be the actual... Yeah, this may... It says... The Marvel Universe role-playing game, and for me, that's... Durability? I don't recall durability. That must be a 6th edition thing, because, as I said, I haven't done 6th edition. So, I mean, yeah, there are conversion systems out there. You can look, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to be handmade and just thrown out on the internet. They might be on someone's webpage, or... I really don't try to, condone piracy. I mean, technically, it is illegal, but the problem is it can't be stopped. So you're going to have people who put the stuff out there, and it's going to be on things like Scribed, and yeah. If you look up, you will find. Again, JFGI, just fucking Google it. So abilities, that's the important thing, is that in the end, every character has to have them. You have to have strength. You have to have physical strength, dexterity and agility, physical health, mental health, intellectual capability, and how well do you interact or appease with other people. And that would be charisma. They did try the comeliness stat, I believe, for 2nd edition. It just didn't fly. I remember this. I remember seeing it on old character sheets, and I'm just like... Because, again, personal attractiveness, if you've got characters with... If you have games with multiple races, you've got humans. We'll do the fantasy 7 here because we're going to get into races next. Here you got your 7 races: human, dwarf, elf, gnome, halfling, half elf, and half orc. To humans, elves are incredibly beautiful. They got the long, slender features, the pointed ears. They're graceful, they're fluid. Orcs, not so much. Orcs look like humanoid pigs. And so, I mean, it's the common thing usually that most half-orc characters... How can we say this? The union was not a consensual one. We'll leave it at that. Do the math. We're all, most of us here are adults. Just, yeah. So you're going to have charisma stat. Again, looks are subjective. Now, and of course, so you're going to have, you may be incredibly attractive. You may take some type of advantage or feat or something where, like, you're just like, hi there. Problem is, not everybody's going to think you're attractive. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's one of the oldest sayings out there. Personal charisma is personal charisma. And I will try to say this as politically correct as possible. He is so charismatic, he could sell an Inuit, because the E word is a bad word. If you wish to refer to the natives up in Alaska and up in the northern, far northern, it is Inuit. Inuit. That ESK, that's a no-no. That's a racial slur. That's like the N-word to black people. You don't say anymore. That's like the G word to the Roma. It's just no. But personal charisma. They could sell an Inuit and a refrigerator in the middle of winter. You can talk and do, make anybody believe anything. That is the height of charisma. And just, yeah. Abilities across the board. Every character has them. You're going to have to look at the system and say, okay, what equates to the 6 set? If you're converting to or from OGO with the 6 stats I said, you got to look at another system and say, okay, what is strength? Again, that's math. Everybody, they'll sit there. Palladium has its thing, and I just, okay, do the math there. Okay, and he can lift, he can lift up over his head. His heavy load is 500 pounds. If it's that way in Palladium, you can sit there and go to OGL and say, okay, look in the damn core rulebook. Matter of fact, I'll get it out right now and just point it out to you. Lift chart. No. Carrying capacity, page 171 of the core rulebook. If you're converting some to OGL, you just look at the heavy load, that far right figure. That's how much they can max lift. So, real easy. I mean, the page is right there. There you go. It's that. And so, you're going to have the formula to do physical strength. Everything else, again, part art, part science, you're going to have to eyeball it. Next. Yes, everybody has abilities. Physical and mental statistics that form who they are. Problem is, these are people. And that would bring us to the concept of races. As I said, the 7 core races in D&D are human, dwarf, elf, gnome, halfling, half-elf, and half-orc. And we were discussing this today at work because I have 2 coworkers who are playing the new Baldur's Gate 3, which dropped the 3rd. So 4 days ago, like Thursday, this game dropped. And it's based on the 5e D&D system. And I'm hearing this Baldur's Gate 3 is fire. I mean, just they let you pick classes and subclasses and races. My one coworker, Joe, has a Dragonborn, which would be a half-dragon, wizard, and scholar. Dragonborn was not really a thing until 4e. They really didn't have that as a race in 3e. If you wanted to be a Dragonborn, you just threw the half-dragon template on your character from Bestiary. Done. Your race. Now, I'll use an example, something I've had to do, and it's a pain. As you all know, I'm a big fan of Robotech. I've done Robotech games. I have had to make the Zentradi. Now, if you're not familiar with Robotech, the Zentradi are a genetically created race made by another race called the Tyroleans, or the Robotech Masters. They were originally miners, and then when the Robotech Masters took the flower of life from the race known as the Invid. Oh crap, we need an army. Reprogram all those miners and make them into warriors. Build ships for them, and just we need to fight because we pissed off these Invid. So the Zentradi are basically biological androids with the ability to be shrunken down to maybe 6-7 feet tall, but usually they're 35 to 50 feet tall. And so they were originally made that size because they were mining monopole ore, which is the ore that the Zentradi battleships are all made from. So I had to sit there and convert Zentradi. Now, it was a pain because they're genetically linked to humans, and other than the hair and eye and occasionally skin color, like some of them have kind of slate gray skin and like orange hair and big bulging eyes and like a big forehead, they're still genetically compatible with humans, as are the Robotech Masters. They're all interbreedable, and secondary canon's like, well, there was a race that spread them out throughout the local group, 11,000 years ago. Yay, apple cider. So I had to sit there and try to make the Zentradi into OGL for this Robotech Nightbane campaign that I've been running on and off. And I'm going to be starting another Robotech campaign where it's straight Robotech, but they're going to start getting into the Macross mecha because it'll be in the year 2080 and the Mega Road colonization fleets. Anyways, had to make Zentradi. Okay. So I had to go, okay, well, they're human. They're strong. They're hardy. Not all that bright, not all that perceptive. Brains are not the Zentradi's strong suit. The ones who had the brains were the ones like Exodor, called the Domilions, or the Advisors. So most of them were just warriors and, as I said, just massively, even in micronized form, as I said, they're 6 to 7 feet tall. You micronize a Zentradi, you're still dealing with someone who's very big. And if you get someone like Britai, he may be approaching 8 feet tall. So I had to sit there and figure out a way to make them, okay, they are genetically created for war. Now, granted, they do have some infiltration specialists, but most of them pilot mecha and fire lasers. And so I took the military post-human class from Cywatch, Scorched Earth Studios, because they have two subtypes. Obviously, they're creature type humanoid for bestiary, and they have mutant or patriot. Now, patriot is when some government body has augmented or created you to act on their behalf. Well, the Robotech Masters had an interstellar, and some are saying intergalactic empire. And so it was, we need to create this race. Well, what they did is they retweaked them. Again, they were miners, they turned them into warriors. Okay, basically switch out the programming. The Zentradi were nothing more than biological androids. So, the military post-human class, Patriot subtype. Yes, the Robotech Masters made the race as an army. So, from that point, it was the matter of, they would have better vision. They would have certain skills that would be buffed. Like tactics, and they would have personal firearm proficiency because they know how to handle laser rifles. And so I had to sit there and make this race to be in the Robotech game. And this Macross the Lost Armada Sunday game, which I'm going to be running down the line after I get the Skyrim spin-off campaign in the Amethyst setting done, I'm going to have to dig up those old Zentradi rules, because let's say there's a Zentradi or a half Zentradi or somebody with Zentradi blood, 3-4 generations, like, oh, my great-great-grandfather was, on Britai's fleet and he came down. So I'm going to have that Zentradi, those stats ready, which means I'm going to have to, okay, military post-human, okay, what are your racial weapons, which, I might have, dark vision and low light vision. Or I might have an adrenal boost, which allows me to attain great strength and rage, basically like a berserker rage. So converting characters, Pathfinder has the advanced race guide. 3035 had savage species. And the advanced race guide is pretty much the spiritual successor to savage species, but savage species was a little cooler. I just like that one. Now, you have as I said, the advanced race guide, it is a point-based system. And how do they have it in OGL again? Let me go to the D20PFSRD.com. And you have the types of races. You have the core races, these 7 I mentioned. Feature races like Drow, Dhampir, Catfolk, Orcs, Ratfolk, Tengu, Tiefling. Uncommon races like Changeling, Gillmen, Gripply, like Frogmen. Kitsune, the foxes, the Japanese. Svirvneblin, which are the deep gnomes. They got like big, long pointed noses and slate gray rock-like skin. The Vanara, which are kind of like humanoid white monkeys. Carrie ran a Vanara alchemist in a previous campaign. Standard races: Gnoll, Lizardfolk, Monkey Goblin, Skinwalker, and Triaxian. The Skinwalker is kind of like the Shifter in Eberron, where you got a little bit of lycanthropic blood in you, and it's just enough to give you some bestial features when you get pissed off. The advanced races, you got like androids, Syrinx, Kasatha, monstrous races: Centaur, Ogre, Shobad, and Trox, and then very powerful races like the Drider, which is a drow who's been punished, and the lower half of your body is a spider. You still have the torso of a drow, so from the waist up you look like a drow male. But then you got the bulbous thorax, the 8 legs, and then you have the unknown race points, which are things like a naiad, an aquatic elf, a deep one hybrid, which, you get Cthulhu looking there. And so, yeah, they have broken down the various races, and the further I went down that list, the more race points they were. And as I said, look at the advanced race guide from Pathfinder in order to figure out that. And I've had to use that to make races. I converted FTL 2448 to OGL, and this is a couple years ago. And a lot of them have a lot of anthro races, like a humanoid fox called the Grex. You have a humanoid cat called the Kemnar, kind of Rich Taholka's answer to the Klingons. You had the Zath, which was a leonine race, but with a tauric body. So you had a 4-legged creature, feline, with a humanoid feline torso, and then, like, the full body of, like, a lion. And so I had to sit there and look at Rich's old Tritech system and eyeball, okay. And you're going to have to go deep here, because you got to look to see, okay, what senses, what abilities, and we're going to get into abilities, powers and FX abilities later. But you have to sit there and go, okay, what abilities do these races have? Are their senses heightened? Do they have certain cultural aspects? Do they have certain evolutionary aspects? If you have dark vision, 9 times out of 10, you come from an environment, your people come from an environment where it's dark. The shadow plane, the underdark, the underdeep. And your eyes adjust. And a lot of times you also have the disadvantage of light blindness. Your people have lived so much in the dark that the slightest amount of light, you're blind or dazzled. Amber in my Sunday game is playing a Svartalf, as in from Asgard, which are in Nidavellir and Svartalfheim. Therefore, that's all underground. She has to wear the thin bandage where she can only see this much. My character gave her Ray-Bans. She likes the bandages better. I'm like, fine, whatever. Give me the sunglasses back. Sunglasses make you look more badass. I like these. And, of course, Amber's made a character that my character, who is kind of like a General O'Neill from Stargate now, don't want to mess with her. Mainly because she can turn ethereal and run a ghost touch rapier and dagger through my character's heart. Yeah, so yeah, you have the advanced race guide. And so I'm having to look through all of the race. And obviously, when you're converting a race for a game, there's a certain times you look at a race and just go, no. The race is unplayable. You have it as an NPC. I will give you 2 examples from FTL 2448. The Fritzians and the Krelvin. If you are old school Tri-Tac, you know exactly what those races are. Which mean, yeah, you're not playing them. I just looked at them and I just said, I'm not having somebody with God Tech walking around with, because the Fritzians and the Krelvins do. They are two of the elder races, and all these other races in FTL, they're the child races. And no, you as a GM, you have that right to just, again, go no. Or as we like to call it back in the old days, the veto hammer. Oh, and Breakman Z is up in here. Hey, Z, yeah, Breakman Z, he's here on Twitch too. Tell the folks how much fun you had making a Khajiit for the Sunday game. Catfolk stats. I may have had to tweak them a little, dude. It wasn't all that hard. The Catfolk is a race. It's in the advanced race guide. It's on the SRD. Not really all that. I mean, I might have... Okay, well, the senses might be a little different. And Pathfinder, you can switch out racial traits. Oh, if your human was raised here as an imperialist where, the British Empire, centuries ago, or the Roman Empire where they go out and they conquer everything, you can switch out other racial traits that a human can have to better reflect. And those racial traits are what I did for military posthuman to do Zentradi. So yeah, you're going to have it again. It's researching these races. If you want to sit there and play a race from one game but under another mechanic, you research. You get the old game material. Again, FTL 2448. We're doing the Zath, the Kimnar, the Grex, and oh yeah, I made Tugin. There's an old story there. So I had to sit there, and you got to sit there, and if you're doing it for OGO, you got to determine the creature type, size, bonuses to abilities, the things that they can do, cultural things about them, and how they impact the character. The Tugin are mountain-living, very large lizard folk, kind of. But not the swamp-dwelling. They're more up in the mountains, and they're barbarians, so they're not going to have high strength. They're going to have high strength and con and maybe some altitude immunity. Oh no, Tugin, I'm so hoping that I did Brian Jeski's character justice with Tugin. Just, the Tugins were a race. This one was named Slarg Skullcrusher. Problem is, Slarg was not the brightest bulb in the pack. He wasn't, what's that old phrase? A few tacos short of a combo platter. So he always referred to himself not only in third person, but his racial name. So it was not, I am Slarg Skullcrusher. It's just, who are you? Tugin. And just, yeah, so I had to sit there and make, okay, well, monstrous humanoid, high strength and con, intelligence. You don't have very smart Tugins. There were 3 races on Hansen's world. There's the Arkol, the Skay, and the Tugin. The Tugin would try to eat Skay. And one of the jokes that Brian Jeski did for this character was, hey, Tugin, you like Skay? Like Skay. Cook at 350 degrees. Poke with toothpick for firmness. Yeah, so just, they were not all that bright. So needless to say, there was an intelligence penalty with it, too. And I believe they had decent senses, so the wisdom was kind of high. So I hate to say that, it was kind of like Edith Bunker. Not all that bright, but had high wisdom. And if you're wondering who Edith Bunker is, go ask your parents. We're just going to say that right now, and that's not ageism. That's just, no, ask your parents who either, Archie, All in the Family. Gene Stapleton, wonderful role. And just, she was not all that bright, hence Archie always calling her Dingbat, but there are times she'd have just these glimpses of wisdom, and just, usually it's when she got really pissed off at Archie, and Archie went, oh God, she's on a warpath now. Otherwise, he'd be there, oh, shut up, Dingbat. So yeah, not the brightest bulb in the pack, Tugin, but I had to convert him and bring in things like the culture of their environment, which was up in the high mountains. So, altitude indifference, like, oh, being up in higher altitudes doesn't bother him. He's not going to have to make con checks every hour or whatever. Nope, wait, Z. You look for the light in his eyes, but the bulb's burned out, and it's the old-style Christmas lights, too. One's gone, the whole roll's gone. Yeah, oh no. Oh no, how can we say, the elevator didn't go all the way to the top floor? Again, few tacos short of a combo platter, few fries short of a Happy Meal. But getting the race right, that's researching the crap out of the source material you're getting it from. Now, with GURPS, they often have, the races have different advantages and whatnot. Let's see, what else? Like if you're doing the elevator was stuck in the sub-basement. Oh yeah, no, Tugan just... And yet I had so much fun running that character. Oh my god. I told the Friday group about Tugan, and it was just like, oh no, you're running this character. I said, oh, I'll gladly run this character. I just had to remember everything Brian Jeske told me. And this was like, 30 years ago, last time I saw this guy. And I don't know where he is. I've tried contacting him. He doesn't have social media, so it's like, and his wife apparently didn't remember me, so I want to contact him and tell him, yeah, I played Tuga, I did him in a campaign, I kept him as real as you told me, and he was a hit. But yeah, races, researching them to find out, and part art, part science. You got to sit there, okay, well, they have heightened perceptions because of their senses. You could give them scent. Oh, they have good vision. You could give them dark vision or low light vision, or even do like the dragon senses, where, oh, they see twice as far as a normal human can. And so instead of, -1 per 10 feet per perception penalty, it's -1 per 20. So things like that. And you're just going to have to research and do them. And it's a balancing act, because if you have point system based races and you want to play this race, there's a good chance that your GM may say this is too powerful a race for you to play. Now, back in 3.0, they had things called level adjustments, where your experience would be even different. Yeah, I want to play a half-dragon. Fine, you're 3 levels higher than everybody else. I want to play a draw. I believe that was a +1 level adjustment, because they had certain abilities that made them above elves. Oh, they have, like, certain spells they can cast right away, and, it just... So the 3.0, 3.5, they had level adjustments. Pathfinder, it's now this race point system. And so that means, obviously, as I said, your GM might just, again, with the veto hammer, go, no. Let me see. Examples of races. Let's bring up the... Because, let's just bring up, for example, Android from the PFSRD. Yeah, they are... What race altogether? Or what... Trying to see how many race points that they are. 16. So they're an advanced race. You are going to have... Now, they don't do level adjustments. You could still be a first... It's just... Your GM has to say, okay, do I want the humans who have like 1 or 2, and then we have an android who's 16? I mean, you all saw how Data could do stuff opposed to everybody else in Next Gen. He was infinitely smarter, infinitely stronger, and faster. His drawback was the lack of human emotion and hunches, and that was his drawback. Other than that, because let's see, androids here, +2 to Dex and Intelligence, -2 to Charisma. Medium creatures, base 30 feet. +2 racial bonus on perception checks, -4 penalty on sense motive checks, because they have problems processing emotions properly. In other words, you can lie. It's a little bit easier to lie to an android. Exceptional senses, dark vision 60 feet, low light vision. Racial traits, constructed. For the purposes of affecting targeting creatures by type. Androids both count as humanoids and constructs. +4 racial bonus on saving throws against mind affecting, paralysis, poison, stun. Not subject to fatigue or exhaustion. Immune to disease and sleep effects. They never gain morale bonuses and are immune to fear effects and all emotion-based effects. And then they have their nanite surge, which bonus 3 equal to 3 plus android's character level and a 1d20 roll. When an android uses his power, the circuitry tattoos glow with light equivalent to that of a torch of illumination for 1 round. And then you can have switch out the nanite surge with repairing nanites, and then third-party alternate racial traits. And also they even have, and it's down here, racial variants, the advisor, and the amici. Artificial entities that are comely and sensible rather than off-putting and unconcerned. And they switch out, it's +2 charisma and wisdom, -2 strength. +2 bonus on sense motive, bluff, intimidate, and diplomacy, as well as charisma checks. That replaces emotionless. And they get a +8 bonus on disguise checks to appear as creatures of one other race chosen at the creation. But that switches out the dark vision and the low light. The advisor, +2 intelligence, wisdom, -2 dex. Always considered to have the collar of skilled intrusion veil shaped. Okay, that's the Akashic stuff from Akashic Mysteries. And Akashic Affinity, they start playing with 1 additional point of essence, and that switches out the... So see, with Pathfinder, you can switch out racial traits to make what you want and fit more stuff that you're bringing in from another. See, this is why I like OGL, which is the 3035 D20 Modern Pathfinder 1st Edition, because if you look hard enough, you can sit there and find how you want to make something. You just need to look and go, okay, does this thing here have this? Okay, then, switch out this trait and I got it. So that is why I use OGL so much. So, yeah, you have the android. See, it's a pretty powerful thing. It's got heightened senses, heightened stats, and it's 16 race points. Now I'm going to go back and human. No race points. Human is considered the baseline. There is no race point. Come on. No. Went back too far. No, I don't want to go to the investigator class because I was leveling up a character from yesterday. Let's do one more real quick here. Orc. Yeah, let's try that. 8 race points. Doesn't mean it's half as powerful as an android, just has different things going for it. +4 strength, -2 intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Medium, 30 feet. Ferocity, can remain conscious and continue fighting even if they fall below 0. Weapon familiarity, they have, and that, again, weapon familiarity, again, that is a cultural thing. If you have an orc that wasn't raised in the orc culture, you could switch that out. And then dark vision, 60 feet. And light sensitivity, dazzled in areas of bright sunlight or when the rays of a daylight spell. And so you can switch out alternate racial traits. Day runner, feral, reckless climber, smeller, and squalid. Yeah. So, I mean, you switching out a racial trait says, oh no, they were raised, let's say they were raised in a human culture. Above ground, daylight. They weren't raised in the dark and, So, yeah. When you are converting a race, you have to research that race to get... And again, we're going to do this with conversion. One of my Travisms here, you will never get a 100% conversion. If you do with converting a race, it's because you're house ruling the hell out of it. And so that would mean you really are going to be nitpicking and going, okay, I want him to have this trait, and you got to clear it with your GM and everything. Because usually the GM is making the races, but let's say sitting in, the player is like, okay, well, I want to play this race. And then usually you have a session 0 with the player and go, okay, what do you want to do with this character? How do you want it? Where's the source material? And yeah. So, yeah, as I said, for OGL Pathfinder 1st Edition, they had the Advanced Race Guide. For 3.5, they had Savage Species, which I liked Savage Species. You got to really make some really broad races with that. Let me see something here for... Come on. Oh, you're going to stop up now. I'm trying to click pages here on a PDF, the conversion guidelines for RPGs that I have here. Because I'm looking here. I want to see something if they have something here about... Again, this is the one that converts GURPS, AD&D, D20, Shadowrun, Palladium, ICE, RuneQuest, and Storyteller. And so... Hit dice, dex, power, stamina... Oh, and they even have in here converting West End West End Games D6 system to the storyteller system. That would be... Okay, best example of the West End Games D6 Star Wars, the old West End Games version, which a lot of people, and yes, in the first D20 Star Wars system, they had a conversion table in the back of the book to convert your old West End D6 Star Wars characters to the D20 mechanic. Again, this is how far back I go, folks. I've been doing this stuff for almost 40 years. I started gaming when I was 18, 19 years old. I'm 54. But I was messing with D&D books and all that long before that. Just I didn't start actively gaming until I got out of high school. So, yeah, this conversion thing for... Yeah, they don't really do races here. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on races. It's just all stats and all that. GURPS Lite, I'm going to take a look here and see what they have here. Okay, secondary characteristics, image and looks, social background, skill list, character improvement. Because I want to see here, I'm not seeing anything in the GURPS Lite. This is GURPS Lite 4th edition I'm looking at right now, folks. And I'm really not saying... Okay, yeah. Basically, if you want to do races in GURPS, they will... Depending on the book, and if you've played GURPS, you know there are thousands of books. As I said, I've got a lot of the old Supers, IST, the International Super Teams. I have, I think, Transhuman Space, a few of them. I, of course, have Riverworld, which... it fell apart. I had to 3-hole punch it and put it in an old gray binder. That's how much I use that damn book. That and my first 92 Tritac Incursion, they fall apart. That's how much I used them. But yeah, GURPS, they'll have the racial information in the particular book. Okay. But yeah, races, you just need to eyeball and do some math and figure out what you want and how it's going to fit in your new system. But the race is obviously one of the most important facets of the character because it starts from where you are. Yeah, a class is gained after you go through childhood. When you become, in most games, it's when you become the age of majority, you gain your first level in whatever class you're going to play. Your race is from the moment you're born. So race and abilities are the two things that help define you. Now the third one, I'm going to kind of lump this together here. It's classes, but also skills and talents, because through the class is how you get your skills and talents. We all know the 9 classes in OGL, and I believe we will run them down just in case you do not know. Go back to Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Wizard. And then you've got like about 20 or 30 others that are base classes and hybrid classes and alternate classes. But those are the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Those are the 11 core classes in D&D. And so through your class is where you gain your skills and your proficiencies in skills, as well as any talents you might have based on your class. Now, a fighter. First level, you get a +1 base attack bonus and a +2 to fortitude saves. Why? Fighters are very physical classes. They can be melee or they can be ranged, but in the end, it's their muscles that get them through the day. And so you're going to have skills and talents based on being a medieval fighter. We will go to fighter here, and I will... For a medieval, you would have climb, craft, handle animal, intimidate, knowledge dungeoneering, knowledge engineering, profession, ride, survival, and swim. They only gain 2 plus int mod skill points per level, and they have a d10 hit die. Now, the thing with the fighter is they get bonus combat feats because, and you can shape that to, okay, do I want a distance fighter or do I want a melee fighter? Usually the two types you have. You're either getting in there with the old fisticuffs, or with swords, knives, clubs, staves, whatever, or you are a spearman or an archer. Later on, you get guns and stuff, and they got guns. But basically, your class is what determines, in most systems, your aptitudes, as it were. And with OGL, that'll also mean it'll help you determine your feat progression. Now, everybody's going to take different feats, obviously. And also in Pathfinder, they have a thing called archetypes, where you can switch out class features. You don't have trap finding and improved or uncanny dodge, but you now can do these things instead. Your class is... Race is nature. Class is nurture. In other words, you were raised, trained, brought up to be a fighter. You were part of a military family, or you were a squire to a knight, or you just learned, if you're a ranger. I was out in, the forest as a kid hunting, and now I'm going to use my archery and survival skills to make a living. Maybe go down in a dungeon, get some gold, and retire, age, 30, if I don't die first. Things like that. So, you're going to have these abilities that you probably have been training. Either you were self-taught, or you were with somebody. You either you had a mentor, or in the case of a wizard, you were an apprentice. Or in case of a cleric, you were an acolyte in a church. We're not going to do any altar boy jokes, just get out of the way. I was raised Catholic, we're not going there, but you know what I mean. You were somebody who was in the church, and you helped the vicar, the priest, the bishop, whatever, and in turn, through study and prayer and belief, you become a cleric. Or a rogue, you're there in the streets. You are a street urchin, you learn to survive through guile, wit, deception, sleight of hand, pickpocketing and whatnot, and minor crime. We're talking the old Fagin Oliver Twist thing. Or a modern day rogue would be your typical gang member. They live on the wrong side of the law. They do things they shouldn't be doing, but that's how they survive. That is the environment. My girlfriend, the aforementioned Fur, lived 15 years in the hood. There are things done in inner cities that is the lifestyle. Now, I was raised in I wouldn't say suburbia. I'm trailer trash. I admit this freely. And I have a coworker who really hates it when I refer to myself as trailer trash. I am. I was raised in a trailer park. So my upbringing was different than Z's or Fur's. Fur was raised in a very small town and then lived in the hood. So that Laura Ingalls, Petticoat Junction, yeah. But your class is often due to your upbringing. It is due to how you were raised in those years before you become whatever is the age of majority in your culture. Now, converting a class, let's say you want to do OGL, but you're playing a space game. Well, you could use Starfinder. That would be the obvious thing. But let's say you want to do Pathfinder. You're not really familiar with the Starfinder rules. You're not really keen on them, even though... And where's the book? Let me get it. Get over here, you little bastard. Here. This book right here tells you how to convert. Again, ArcForge Technology Expanded. And its companion book, Starpath. You can convert Starfinder to Pathfinder. And then, I want to play a Starship Officer. Okay, fine. We use a Starfinder class, convert it to the Pathfinder rules, where you're still using the class, but it's because Pathfinder and Starfinder are a little different. Props to Owen K.C. Stevens for making Starfinder, and again, check out his Kickstarter and throw him some money. The man's going through cancer. Even with insurance, shit's expensive. Try to save his life. We want Owen around for a long goddamn time. So yeah, you find a class that's in Starfinder, and I believe, let's say you want to play a scientist or a medical officer. There is a rather new class in Starfinder called a biohacker. Now, I don't think the biohacker is in conversion for Starpath, but you can work through it and say, okay, because they have like a med kit that they can do genetic alterations and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's just like McCoy's med kit, pull out the the little hypo thing, and oh, now due to genetic alterations, you now look like a Romulan. So when you're converting these classes, a lot of times you're going to be, if it's Pathfinder, you're going to be, okay, get your third-party stuff out. Let's see. For example, if I wanted to do now I've done things, but I'm going to use this example here. Let's say Robotech Savage Worlds. My dear late friend Jonathan M. Thompson wrote it, and it's a Robotech the Macro Saga for Savage Worlds. And again, brother, rest in peace. Yeah, we lost Jonathan earlier this year after some illnesses starting in October 2022. And he did, one of his last works was Robotech the Macross Saga for Savage Worlds from Strange Machine Games, gave Savage Worlds a license. And so, let's say you want to play a bridge officer of the SDF-1. There isn't really classes in the Pathfinder, the core classes that would really cover that. A good one would be Blood and Space from RPG Objects, and they have shipboard sci-fi classes. They were D20 modern. You can update them in Pathfinder, and so you're going to get those skills of, I know computers, I know sensors, I have basic electronic repair, because let's say a console blows out, I have to be able to fix it or reroute something. You're going to have, if you're like the communication person, linguistics, because you're going to have to be able to translate, and the universal translator is not always going to work. So you're going to have linguistics as a skill. Let's see, computers, linguistics, basic electronics, probably some other sciences, physical sciences, physics, chemistry, whatnot. Because on a starship, a lot of times you have to go, like in Star Trek, helm, communication, navigation, all kind of, you can bop between the three, and you have to take over a post, and yeah. So that's how, you can sit there and try to do classes. But again, trying to get a class, the thing by which you get your skills and talents, it's not easy. Because you're going to have to sit there and figure out, okay, now that we figured out the nature part of him, he is a human who is part of a starfaring culture. Okay. He is a science officer on board this starship. I need to find a class that's going to be given. Now, see, here's the thing with Pathfinder. Technically, you could do the investigator with a couple archetypes and the technologist feat. You could pull that off. And the chemistry, that's just like, yeah, I have chemistry skills and I can make up things. Yeah. Chemistry was one of my, sciences that I did. And then, of course, you do just take, like, knowledge engineering tech, knowledge physical sciences, and you can sit there and do a starship officer, a science officer. And, of course, you could throw in D20 modern. Okay, there's my computer use. I know how to do sensors and whatnot and call up, records and do the, yes, Captain, scanning, So, yeah, you have, and again, classes are all due to setting. The 11 I mentioned earlier, they're from a fantasy. And, I mean, you can convert some fantasy classes to modern day. A rogue is always going to be a rogue. Somebody who lives on the wrong side of the law. A fighter in modern could be somebody with military or police experience. Paramilitary, Now, somebody with survival skills could be a ranger. Now, they could be, like Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, British SAS, I believe would be the term. A barbarian? That would be somebody who often uses strength and rage to get their things done. Those are people like certain criminals that have anger management issues, or a bar brawler. That would be the good example of a modern day barbarian. Now, a bard, obviously, you'd have to just say they can't cast spells. The Trinity Universe games, the D20 versions from White Wolf, they've reworked a lot of because let's see, Rogue is now Scoundrel, Fighter is now Warrior, Bard is now Entertainer. It has a lot of the same things as the Bard, it's just no spell casting. Because in the Trinity Universe, there's no such thing as magic. It's all quantum and nova and psi and inspiration, Z waves from 1924. If you are familiar with the Trinity Universe, you know what I'm talking about. And so the Bard would be the Entertainer. It's got the Bardic knowledge. It's got where you can get in back doors. You have, let's see, with Scoundrel, things like cool customer and trap finding, and they don't have a sneak attack. Now, the Warrior for Trinity Universe, yeah, you get the bonus combat feats every other level. So, trying to find a class, it's setting based. As I said, most of your classes are due to the setting in which they're in. Now, a lot of classes have been made to be, what's the term I'm looking for? All-encompassing, or near all-encompassing. But you're going to get some every so often. It's just like, okay, they are that exact. You're going to have to either find a third-party thing or make up something and just... Again, OGL has millions of PDFs because you can go all the way back to 3.0 and find some. Granted, not all of it's good. I have seen some 3.0 things when the D20 craze first came out in 2000. The OGL came out. Everybody and their goddamn grandmother came up with a role-playing game company. And you had, and I'm going to say this, for every one or two good companies, you had another 5 that were crap. And they thought, oh, I can put out a role-playing book. I got a lot of them. They were crap. There was one I got. It was called, I want to say it's Burning Neon or something like that. And it was cyberpunk, and it was supposed to be for the player's handbook, and you had these classes. The only good thing about it was the photography, and even then it was friends of the people who made the book dressed up. Oh, I got sunglasses and a long leather coat, and I got this fake gun, and yes, I am cyberpunk. And I might have a wire sticking out of me, and all this, and I'm cyberpunk. The classes sucked, the setting sucked, and the particular store I went to get this book, oh, you spend this much and you get $20 off. I paid sales tax for this book. At the time, it was 4 cents on the dollar. I'm here in Michigan. I saw this book. I opened it up. I looked through it. It is on my shelf today because I'm not going to throw away a book. It's just paying for the sales tax for this $20 book. I still paid too much for it because the classes just were like, ugh. But yeah, getting your classes, trying to figure out your classes and trying to figure out the nurture part of the character. Again, race is nature, class is nurture. It's a real good way to remember. And skills and talents, and in some case, and we'll get to that in about 15 minutes, the extraordinary abilities and the supernatural type abilities and spell-like and psi-like and superpowers and telepathy and, all that. That's another thing you got to sit there and try to transfer from one system to another. But yeah, let's see. Trying to see here, because Second World Sourcebook, that's more multiplanar, multi-era gaming. That's not converting classes so much. That's just converting from fantasy D20 D&D stats to D20 modern. The good thing about classes, if you are converting to, let's say, to OGL, Pathfinder, is that 3.0 and 3.5, they had splat books. They had a lot of splat books. Splat books are complete fighter, complete mage, complete arcane. Classes of the woods, classes of, and D20 had millions of them. I've got PDFs of oh, the prestige class, oh, you got to have this many in base attack bonus and these feats and this highest skills, and then you can start taking this class. So you got to take like 5 levels of fighter, have a +5 base attack bonus, and now you can take this other class, which is like a fighter, but now you're learning to specialize in something. Because of all the damn prestige classes, Pathfinder brought in the archetypes. Where you switch, and I mentioned this before, where you switch out class features to get, a rogue. And it's funny because as long as class features between archetypes are not touched, if you have these class features altered from one archetype, let's do it this way, and then these, and it doesn't do this, it does this, you could use more than one archetype. Rogue has Rogue is the only one I have actually put 3 archetypes, but it was a really defined character. So that's a good way if you were converting from some other system to OGL. Look into archetypes, that'll help. And of course, by the setting and everything now you can, and a lot of it's on the SRD. Oh, it's from, there is the pure Steam setting from Icosa Entertainment. Icosa, ICOSA, is an icosahedron, 20-sided die. You see what they did there? It's sort of an old west kind of setting. You're going across the prairie there's magic and whatnot. And they have old west archetypes of the various 11 classes. And like the alchemist, oh, you have a guy who, oh, what was the alchemist one? I want to say it's called a fumigator, where he just basically makes smoke bombs. And so, yeah, you can do that. And if you are, oh, wow, I want to play Wild West, but, OGL, Pure Steam would be a good one to go into. That and Sidewinder. That was another one. That was more 3035 D20 modern. So, setting often tells the classes that you're going to play. Again, it's how the character that you're doing is raised. Post-apocalyptic, you're going to be having things like scavengers and warlords and, drivers and space opera. You're going to be having, naval officers and adventurers and scoundrels and techies and, so, and then of course fantasy, you're going to be having the 11, core races. D20 Modern, they did classes based on your 6 stats. So you had the strong hero, the fast hero, the tough hero, the smart hero, the dedicated hero, and the charismatic hero. A lot of people did not like those classes, I found out. And so they did something different with Everyday Heroes. And with Modern Adventures from Panic Productions, that was Dr. Nick Palmer, a friend of mine. I actually got to meet him at Gen Con in 2012. And he did something called Modern Adventures, and he came up with 5 new... I mean, you could still play the other classes and some of the other special classes, and they had modern variations like clerics. Let's face it, you're not seeing a lot of priests walk around in plate mail. So what they did is they said they altered the weapon armor proficiencies. They also altered... I may have Modern Adventures up, and I can give you a better example if I can, read from the damn PDF. Bingo, Modern Adventures, yes. Let's see, the base and core classes. Come on. Yeah, Barbarian. Especially those subject to psychotic rages. Bards, Jack of all trades, okay. Cleric, yeah. Modern age skepticism and cynicism leave little room for faith. Yeah, they switched out. Modern clerics are only proficient with simple weapons, shields, and the favored weapon of their deity, if any. Add knowledge local and pilot cars pickup to the list of cleric class skills. Yeah, considerably more cerebral and less hands-on than their medieval counterparts. As I said, you're not seeing fighters, they're soldiers, cops, what have you. Yeah, they even had Inquisitor, which you could do things like, let's see, The Last Witch Hunter, the Vin Diesel movie of Melkor, his iconic D&D character he's been playing for 30 years. Vin Diesel, that would be a Pathfinder Inquisitor, modern day, having to deal with cars and whatnot, even though he has, divine powers that he can use to root out supernatural creatures. And so here's... Oh, no, that's not what I was looking for. But yeah, research your settings and see what would be proper to fit. Modern Adventures also did, let's see, the Charmer, the Entertainer, which is kind of like a bard but no magic, the Gadgeteer, the Investigator, different than the OGL one, and the Scholar. Oh, and what was the sixth one again? The Stranger. The Stranger, I guess, could be the modern-day barbarian, but also it's kind of like your street people. Homeless, people living in the back alleys and stuff. And they even have things like you can make armor by, like, strapping junk to you and all that. So, yeah, settings are what build the classes, and the classes are what build the characters throughout their early life. It's what they aspire to through their childhood, usually through training or immersion in the culture. You're not exactly trained to be a rogue in modern day if you're living, in the inner city, and you happen to be, a gang member. It's just how you're raised, how you're brought up. It's the law of the land, as it were. And so you're going to have those skills based. A modern gang member would have a variation on the rogue class, and just that. So you're going to have to eyeball the class that the character concept class from, like, now usually if you're just translating from, like, Palladium's fantasy game to Dungeons & Dragons, most of the classes, because Kevin Simbita fashioned that on D&D, he just didn't like the kill factor being, and if you know the Palladium system, they want you to use brain work instead of killing, so you're not having a bunch of murder hobos. That's easy. If you're doing one fantasy game together, 9 times out of 10, just plug and play, as it were. But if you're trying to do, well, I have this Star Wars character from D6 West End Games, and I want to play him in Savage Worlds. There are Savage Worlds Star Wars conversions out there. Again, the Internet Archive, and what was that page again? Where is it? Savage Heroes. Where, let's see, Star Wars. Scrolling. Keep this page here scrolling. My knuckles and my hands are swollen. Rawhide. Okay, Star Wars, yeah. And they've got 6 or 7 different... Oh, no. Let's see. 8 different types of Star Wars things that you can use to play different types of Star Wars games. And based on the West End Game and Saga Edition role-playing games. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of times these homebrew conversions are they're done by people who are they know the fandoms. They know, okay, this class here would mean this class here. if you go out and look for, oh, I want to play Robotech, but in, Savage Worlds, well, I mean, they've already got one. The work is done. But if you're wanting to do, I want to do Robotech and OGL, that hasn't been done yet. You're going to be doing homebrew, and you're probably going to have to sit there and research how, okay, I want to do a Veritech pilot. Now, D20 Future has mech pilot classes. And even, like, Prestige and Advanced classes. D20 Future and... No, not Future Tech. No, D20 Future. You could technically find a mech pilot and either Destroyer or Veritech to do that. So, I mean, that's there. And so, just get the right feats and it's like, oh, Vehicle Operation Veritech as opposed to Destroyer. And you've got it. So, yeah, classes, you're really going to have to just... You might get lucky and get a decent transfer, and you might get some new abilities, too. You might find this other class is like, oh, wait, I can do that. Perfect example of converting to an OGL mech pilot. There are two here in, again, Technology Unleashed. One of them is called the Helmsman. Now, it deals with the Akashic stuff from Akashic Mysteries, which means you get little powers that can help you do stuff like navigate, pilot, keep in contact with your ship, and do things like, oh, I need to, know everybody on the ship is okay, and while I'm piloting, everybody gets a save because, I'm forcing... And, of course, the Akashic with cybernetics mindset be good for that. They also have another one in here, and it's based on... Tactician? Psychic Warrior from Ultimate Psionics from Dream Scarred Press. It's called a Reactor Knight. And you get diminished powers, and you can just chalk that up to either combat drugs or just little knacks of things you can do and make yourself better pilot. You're pushing yourself. You're not really realizing it's psi. It's just every so often I push myself and, steer a little better or fire a little more accurately. But the Reactor Knight has things called overdrives, and they are things like energized weaponry, ejection seat, afterburner, jaws of life, where you get your hands of the mech in and rip something apart. And they're just abilities, and they replace the Warrior's Path, Expanded Path, Secondary Path, Powers, Trance, Maneuvers, and Path Weaving from the Ultimate Psionics Psychic Warrior. So this is a good way to make a mech pilot. Either that or the Helmsman class, which is here in Technology Expanded from Arcforge by Legendary Games. So, as I said, look for... If you're converting, a lot of times just look for third-party stuff. They will have things that you can do to convert your classes and bring... Oh, I wanted, as I said, a Robotech Veritech pilot. Probably the Reactor Knight would be better. And, all the Psionics, well, just Rick was pushing himself to do, after all, he was Rick Hunter, he had plot immunity. As far as we know, in Robotech, he's still alive. They haven't... If there's no body, So, classes. And by that virtue, skills and talents. Because, again, classes are how you gain the skills, or at least the proficiency to do skills easier. Class skills for OGL. And talents are all your class features, like for a rogue, trap finding, improved dodge, evasion. So, yes, this now brings us to the final part of our show. The thing that you're probably going to have the biggest problem with if you are converting from one mechanic to another, and D20 Modern called them FX abilities. Now, in the context of D20 Modern, it was magic, spellcasting, arcane and divine, and psi. You can also throw in superpowers into this, because you have a lot of superhero games out there. Of course, obviously, the biggest OGL superhero game is, of course, the quite venerable Mutants and Masterminds by Green Ronin. Steve Kenson and company. It's nothing against them, but I have found stats that are a little quicker and easier, and I don't have to have my players adopt a whole new game to do superheroes. Now, the superheroes I do, I'm either using Powered Hero Evolution from Scorched Earth Studios, or I am doing Aberrant D20 from White Wolf. Actually, in my Thursday game, I'm using both of them, and I did a lot of work trying to, okay, this power from Aberrant means this power in Powered Hero Evolution. So this feat means I can take this because I gave you the power from Aberrant. It counts as this, therefore you can take this feat to help augment it. But usually when you are doing powers and FX, it's magic and psi. You're having to go over spell casting systems. Now, I'll use an example. Yeah, I have converted the Palladium Megaverse, and no, I have not tried to sell a system. But Kevin Sabita knows who I am. He knows I ain't going to screw him over. He calls me the local Pollock, for God's sake. So you have, let's say, a spellcaster, the magic caster from Heroes Unlimited. And you want to try to make a spellcaster in OGL. Spells are a little different in Palladium than they are in OGL. This is more eyeballing. Detect magic is detect magic is detect magic. You're across the board. But they've got this one spell in Pathfinder called Carpet of Adhesion, I believe it's called. Where basically you make and wrap around. There is no spell like that in D&D unless you do telekinesis. More eyeballing. You're starting to notice a pattern here. I don't think you have to be autistic to realize a pattern. Most of inner mechanic, translating between mechanics, it's going to be eyeballing. Judgment calls. Researching and figuring out what will be the best translation. And again, you will never get a 100% perfect translation. I have converted Palladium games, Palladium characters over to OGL. And some characters didn't get certain spells, and I just had to say, the spell doesn't work in this instance. And I think I did that. Yeah, I had in mid-game, and it was my first Robotech game, Robotech Nightbane game. So the characters, I wanted to do them as OGL for a while, so that means I had to convert. And remember, Palladium classes only go up to 15th level. OGL go up to 20th level. Palladium doesn't have any epic level stuff. So I was like, oh, you're a 15th level OGL character. Okay, you're maybe... We can do the math right now. It's been a while since I've done this math. Wait a minute. Okay, we're going to do this here. Move this back here. And I want to say it's 0.75, so... Yeah, 0.75. So let's say you have an 18th level D&D character. It'd be about 13th and a half level in the Palladium system, which considering it goes to 15th level, yeah, that's about right eyeballish. So 18th level character in, let's see, an 18th level wizard in D&D can cast 9th level spells. So yeah, you're going to be getting, and the spells for Palladium, I believe, all the way go up to 15th level. It's been a while since I've done a Palladium thing. My players didn't really care for Palladium, so I had to take it upon myself to, yeah, fine, I'll convert it all to OG. Oh shit, I got a lot of work to do. So yeah, a lot of the spells again are setting based. And I'll give you another example. The Skyrim game that Jeff DeReff and Professor Pixie, go to their Twitch channels, it's all video game stuff. But Jeff made his Skyrim conversion. And I had to sit down with him. And finally, on my own, I had to do, because I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do the Dragonborn. The Skyrim magic system is obviously, there's going to be things that are different than a D&D game. And so what I did is I had to eyeball each spell. I had to go to the Elder Scroll Wiki and look at all the dragon shouts. And in my blue folder over here, which it started out as the Skyrim game, it is now the Amethyst with Trevor and Nephith game. Where we have the Stargate guy, the Svartalf, and now the two catfolk. One of them is a rogue with archery, and the other one is 3 feet tall and is a necromancer. Fur was in that one playing Hakan from the Protector. I just adapted it to the Amethyst setting. And so I had to convert these dragon shouts. And I've got a list of, and let me get it now because I got it right here. And so, again, yeah, oh no, these are all, I've got 2 piles of them on top of a box of paper over here. So let me get to the dragon shout page here, and just give me a second here. See, I prepared for all the, oh, look, I have this old thing and all this, and then, yeah. Okay, dragon shouts as per sorcerer spells. There is the dragon shout Kind's Peace. Kyne, Kind's Peace. It was supposed to be detect and calm animals. That's what I started with. Then I had to do the research. No, apparently there is a spell in OGL called Alpha Instinct, which makes it where, no, I am the alpha of your pack. You will listen to me. And the animals go, okay. So, converting powers and psi and magic, you have to do the research, dig into it, and then try to find the best. Now, some of them, I couldn't do, because they were thematic to the Skyrim setting. Where was that? Soul Tear. Basically, you kill your opponent, command its ghost. It's like, okay, I just killed you, and now your ghost is my bitch. And so, yeah, there's no spell like that in D&D. That is something specifically Skyrim setting. What was the other one? I think it was, summon Durnevere. Basically, you're summoning this epic level undead dragon. Yeah, there's no spell for that. That's setting specific. Now, I told Jeff, either that is a plot device, or you just don't have it. Now, if it's a plot device, then you make the adventure, and yes, I have this now, and I can do this, and I can probably only do it once because that dragon will try to kill us next. But, and again, this is conversion from one mechanic to another. It's just that it's more converting intellectual property, but still, I had to sit there and research a spell. Now, as like I said, the Palladium magic system, Rifts and Nightbane and Heroes Unlimited has the magic, but they don't use the PPE. I'm trying to remember what other games in Palladium use the magic. Beyond the Supernatural, duh. So you have to go through their system and just go, okay, detect magic, detect magic. Flame Blast, that's Scorching Ray. Fireball is Fireball. Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt. Some of them are, again, Kevin took a lot of his shit from D&D and just made it where, and I'm not blaming him for this. I don't like the murder hobo thing either. I try to give you role-playing experience points for your brain, not just, oh, you killed this CR21 creature. No, I'm going to give you experience too for role-playing. And so that's why Kevin made the Palladium Fantasy role-playing game, and he had the Defilers, and of which a few of my late friends were members of the Defilers. Terry Williams was one of them. Local people here, he used to run the anime room for Conclave. He was a dear friend of my mentor, Rich Tahoka. And so, the Palladium role-playing game, the fantasy, he just had versions of the D&D spells that were there in first edition. So, yeah, if you're trying to copy powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men, you're going to need to look at them and go, okay, how does this fit the mechanics? Because, again, mechanics are often molded by the setting. You have rules in place to help emulate a setting. Now, let's see another example. Let's say you want to play a Jedi, but in an OGL setting. There, you have the West End D6, you have the Star Wars D20, you have the Star Wars Saga. I do believe there is now a Fantasy Flight version of Star Wars, and I believe my brother Harold plays it. Or has played. I don't know if he's currently doing it. But basically, you got to sit there and go, okay, what are a Jedi's powers? What Force abilities can he do? And how do they correspond with the powers that are in the rule mechanics I'm doing? Fur wanted to play an armor, a Mandalorian armor. This is the way. Emily Swallow as the gold-plated armor from the Mandalorian. I made her have Jedi powers, and I said the reason why you are now on the run is because you found out you are Force sensitive. Your own covert tried to take you out because they found out you were a Jedi. So, I decided to use Ultimate Psionics from Dreamscarred Press. I'm not keen on Occult Adventures from Paizo. If I want Psionics in my game, I will use, because it's an extrapolation of the expanded Psi Handbook from 3035. So I'm sitting there, okay, I had to sit there and look through Force powers. All the stuff, and I'm having to get my Star Wars D20 shit out of my room. That's, see, converting between mechanics, you have to do the research. You're going to have to be cracking open a lot of books and a lot of PDFs. So I had to look and go, okay. Control, sense, and alter, which is how they do the three, and this is canon. Control, sense, and alter, the three, here. Still not used to the camera here. Control, sense, and alter, the three modes of manipulating the Force. And I believe you have to be able to sense the Force, then control it, and then alter it. So I had to sit there and look and go, okay, what beginning Force abilities can she get via these rules? Fine. So I'm having to explain to her, okay, you have these psychic powers. It's the Force. The Force is psionics. And we had a discussion. I said, they're not magic. And so I showed Fur, and I had to dig deep into my Star Wars PDFs to find these spellcaster feat. Where, yeah, you're a Force manipulator, but you've been raised as magic, so you have to do the psychological crutches of words and gesticulation, and it's a full round effect. The Witches of Dathomir. Best example. The Witches of Dathomir in the Star Wars universe. Yeah, they're all Force users, it's just they're not raised by Jedi. They think it's all magic. So they do and it's more a psychological crutch, because you could trade out the feat and it's like, nope, I'm a Jedi. At the most, I don't even have to, do this to raise. I can just close my eyes and I just lifted an X-Wing. Yoda doing that with his hand, that was for dramatic effect, rising out of the water, and Luke's like, that's impossible. That is why you fail. So I just basically, beginning Force powers, linking up with first level Scion, or what did they do? Scion or Psychic Warrior? I believe Scion. Dual discipline, telepathy and telekinesis, and then just all the Force powers, I just coincided them. And just, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this. And again, it's due to setting. And you're going to have this, again, not 100% perfect translation. You're going to have to say, this power doesn't work. Outside the Star Wars universe, it doesn't work. And again, I fringe-worthy, so it was because it was the Star Trek Kelvin universe. Rich put it, rubbed off the serial numbers and put it in one of his Portals books. So you could go the fringe paths and go, and I put Star Wars about 5 nodes away. So how I brought Fur into that Thursday game was, hi, my Termillan NPC, Schwad, picked you up. He was visiting there, found out you were, it's like, home with me. Come with me, you want to live, and pulls through a portal. So there was an armorer in the Star Trek universe doing Psi. Schwad was training her along with the others. Will's Vulcan, Sokoth, who had some minor Psi ability. The Mind Meld and a few other things. And so I had to, as the armorer gained levels, as Fur was leveling, I think she got up to like 10th or 11th level before having to leave the campaign. So there was a I had to sit there and okay, by the Star Wars D20 rules, okay, you can't get this power until you have this power, then this power. So I had to sit there and say, okay, oh crap, this is a third level power. We're gonna have to go another route to get another power, and then by the time she's able to hit third level powers, then she can have this secondary Star Wars Force power. Again, setting often involves power and FX abilities. If you're playing a D&D wizard and you go into a modern day thing, you better either have the Second World source book to do inter-genre playing, or your wizards are going to be nerfed. Or if you're going to go to another setting, let's say you want to go, oh god, let's say D&D world, and you take them via the fringe paths, and you can cryogenically freeze somebody, and again, it has to be steam tech like the fridge and Back to the Future 3 and all that. But you could cryogenically take someone over the fringe paths and put them in a new game setting, which means you got to translate the characters. Let's say, oh, my D&D wizards, yeah, we want to take our wizard buddy, but he's the one that's not fringe-worthy. Okay, put him in suspended animation, carry him on the fringe paths, and now he's in the storyteller universe. You got to sit there now and convert the D&D magic system, which is Vancian magic, fire and forget, spell slots. Again, I use spell points. I prefer it. Vancian magic. Okay, there was a book of stories, and I believe either the author or the character, his name was Jack Vance, and he had the fire and forget magic, where you could cast a spell a certain number of times and then you're done for the day. And because it's that fire and forget spell slot magic, a lot of us older gamers call it Vancian magic. They came up with spell points, I believe, in Unearthed Arcana. And I prefer spell points because it allows you to, like, okay, you don't have to study Magic Missile 5 times because you think you're going to need it today because you're going into a battle. You can pick one spell. You can pick Magic Missile once. As long as you have the spell points, you can keep firing it until you're out of spell points. So I prefer that. It allows the players more versatility. Now let's say you want to convert from the storyteller to OGL. This has already been done for you. Now, if you know the storyteller like Mage the Ascension, they have this power word system where you link words up, and it's kind of like the dragon shouts in Skyrim, where you have one word and it's a minor effect. Then you find that second word and it builds that effect, and then you get the third word, you get the full effect. You go from, hi, I just frosted your beer mug, to I just froze you and you shattered into a million pieces. It builds up. Storyteller has that same type of plugging the words together to get your effect, and you have to know the words and how to combine them. Well, we got this book over here called Ultimate Magic from Paizo. Orange cover. If you Pathfinder 1st edition, you know what I'm talking about. They have a Words of Power alternate magic system. And I'm looking at this, I go, this is Storyteller. This is how they did the story. Now, I didn't want to use it when I did Time Lords and Magic, which Doctor Who and Vampire the Masquerade and all that. Thank Perky Goth for that. Because I didn't want to have to teach everybody new magic system, learn one. So I just said, you know what? And I told Gina this. I said, do you really want to sit there and teach Jeff and Josie and Z and everything a whole new magic system? That's going to take a lot of time, and they may not like it. No. Well, then we're going to have to change this fast of the world. And there are times you're going to have to do that. You're not going to be able to translate over, so you may have to take a different mechanic and just chalk it up to, okay, you're in this world, you've converted this character, and magic doesn't work the same. It's a bit of hand-waving, but it just, there are certain times you got to do it. So when you're converting powers and FX abilities, also, another one, we'll do superpowers. The old DC and Marvel games. The superpowers there, the rules for the DC Heroes Mayfair games, and the rules for the Marvel Superhero Phase Rip system from old school TSR, pre-Wizards of the Coast. You're going to have, for Marvel, a web-slinging power. Gee, I wonder why. Problem is, you look in DC, and I don't remember anything where you can shoot sticky strands and use them to either bind people up, or swing, or pull things. Web slinging is a setting-specific power. let's say you want to convert Spider-Man over to DC rules. You don't like the Marvel rules, you prefer the DC rules, but you want to play Marvel Heroes. There's netbooks out there which have stats for, and I do believe I can bring it up now while we still have the time. I have superhero settings in my campaign settings folder. And there was somebody, it is the Marvel Superheroes. Marvel Superheroes role-playing game, The Big Book, re-edited and typeset by Nemesis. Again, this is a netbook. It was thrown out there. I did the work. Have fun. Now, it has a lot of the Marvel people from the 90s. They've also put in Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Aqualad, Robin, Batgirl, the Joker. Converted over to DC stats, which means they had to find a way to convert DC and Marvel back and forth. I did it ages ago. I don't know where I put it, and I'm sure it's out there. The material in this mighty tome was originally compiled by Gabbage based on materials from the website classicmarvel.com. Nemesis condensed the prior work in some easy use. Yeah. So, let's see. Spider-Man. And I'm reminded of the guy that's sit there and, you know, he's trying to go to a comic book. Can you draw a Batman or Spider-Man? Spider-Man, yeah. See, the web shooters, that's equipment. Wall crawling, that, yeah, you can do that, I'm sure. I think there is wall climbing or wall crawling in the DC thing. Combat sense, danger sense, precognitive flashes. A lot of superhero stuff has that. Now, let's see. We have Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew. The old red and yellow and black costume. She has energy emission, her bioelectric venom blast. That's a lightning bolt. That's just her firing bioelectric. You know, she can enhance her bioelectricity or absorb it from the air and fire it out in a crackling blast, her venom blast. That's, any superhero game has energy emission. In, what is it? In Powered Hero Evolution, it is the shooter talent tree. In the Trinity Aberrant D20 game, it is Quantum Bolt, and you just say it's fire, it's electricity, it's sonic, it's cold, whatever. So, if you're doing superheroes, translating 99 times out of 100, you're going to get a proper translation. Usually it's going to be the power that is setting specific that you're going to have the issues with, and you're just going to have to either come house rule the shit out of it, as my old buddy Jerry Gentry used to say, or you're going to need to possibly do, rig up something. And this goes for magic, it goes for psi, it goes for superpowers. Those are the 3 FX abilities I know of. Usually, it will fall under one of those 3. Magic, psychic or psionic powers, and superpowers. Now, tech is tech. You can just, that's... And for OGL, that's just, yeah, he has create tech arms and armor from the technology guide, and, oh, look, he now, has made his, power armor. And, of course, OGL has plenty of rules for power armor. I prefer the ones for, that use the Aegis class rules from Ultimate Psionics that make tech power armor. It works. So, yeah, converting magic, psi, and superpowers, if it's setting specific, you're going to need to house rule. Usually with powers, again, abilities far beyond those of mortal men, there's usually some direct translation, a little bit of serial number rubbing off, and you're fine. Or just say, oh, it works differently here. And you can chalk it up. If you're going from one universe to another, which is usually when you're converting things, oh, yeah, my guy's from the Storyteller universe, I want to have him in OGL. You just say, oh, well, dimension, magic works differently. You're not going to have some of your powers here, but they've converted to these powers. Or just you're going to try to cast a spell and it doesn't work. the laws of magic or the laws of physics or the laws of mentatics, psi, work differently in this universe. It's nice if you tell them before they try doing it and you pull this in the middle of a game because you're going to piss off your player. You might want to have that sessions there with the character going, okay, you know what? There is no power in here that does what you want to do. It's not going to work in this dimension. Just, and deal with it. Most time players are like, okay, fine. You're going to get one of those, well, that's my main power. That's what he's known for. Then you better come up with some other way to do it, or you're going to be learning to adapt and not being able to use that power. So, yeah. As far as converting between mechanics, research, a very good idea of what you're trying to do, knowledge of the from and to mechanic. So if you have a GURPS character and you want to translate it to heroes, as I said, also look online. Conversion charts have been made. If you have access to the old Adventurers Club, issue 5 has the Marvel. I forget, and it's a single digit. So it's 1 through 9. It's one of those. Has the old DC Mayfair to Heroes. As I said, I wanted to show you guys this to show you this is how far back I go. And like I said, I have been doing tabletop role playing. Actually, I've been digging around in the books since I was 11, 12. I got my first Champions box set from my stepdad. No, 13. Champions box set. Briarwood Mall Hobby Center. And it's funny because the lady who worked there, Jane Stockton, her only son Charles was later one of my original gamers. Sadly, Charles is one of the 3 original gamers in my group who have since passed away. But I'm sitting there and I'm going, wait a minute, Jane Stockton. Yeah, I was talking with... Wait, hold it. And I meet her, I'm like, wait a minute. And she goes, oh no, I remember you before I retired from Hobby Center. You came there and bought that Champions game. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. So, yeah. Research. Look online for conversion tables. That'll save you a lot of time and trouble. Have good idea of your to and from mechanics. Okay, it does this. Can I do this? Talk with your GM. Talk with your players on what you want this character to be with these new mechanics. All right. Another episode of Uncle Trav's Campaign Notes is in the can. Once again, this has been your Uncle Trav. And we're going to wrap it up as we always do here. It's about 2 minutes to 10 Eastern Daylight Time. This will be uploaded later this week to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Trav13369. And I will be back here on Twitch tomorrow to live stream the Travcast, Part 3 of Blind Wolf's Rubber Room Association on DementiaRadio.org. Tuesday nights, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, with Breakman Z and Jeff DeRep. Go check those 2 out here on Twitch. Check out Professor Pixie, my dear new friend Jacinda Flowers. She's probably on now doing something. She sat in last week and watching, and she's like, yeah, Trav really got deep with a lot of this stuff, but he told me he's been doing this a long time. So, I'm out of here. I'm glad I got to do this yet again. As I said, I have a pretty decent digital footprint as Trav. So, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, well, X now. X, I'm also Trav13369, so you can get me on there. I still am going to call it Twitter. The guy can't even keep his fucking sign up on the building. I am on Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. It's Robert Trav Pulaski. P-O-L-O-S-K-E-Y. I'm out there. If you have questions on this, because you can't do anything via Twitch here, unless you leave something in my chat room and it stays there. I don't know. I don't know if the chat room goes on even when I'm not on streaming. So, JFGI Trav, look me up, contact me if you have anything, questions about this. As I said, oh, no, here, yeah. Well, no, Travcast fans page, that's on Facebook, that's more for my show. I have, as I said, folks, I got a digital footprint. You can find me if you have questions about any of this stuff. When it's uploaded to YouTube, leave a comment there. Like, subscribe, comment there to get me followers there. Get followers here on Twitch because I'm trying to get affiliate status. So, that all having been said, this is your Uncle Trav again saying gaming is just collective storytelling. Gather some friends and make some great stories. Night, everybody. Talk to you here tomorrow.